Mic's on, and we'll call our meeting to order. First thing on the order today is a roll call. We can just make note that all members are present, and we'll go ahead and set the agenda. Anybody like to add or subtract from the agenda today?
President Priner, staff have no adjustments.
Okay. Any board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Rice Creek Watershed Board of Managers on,
June 23rd.
June 23rd, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda. Patrick?
Yes, President Priner, Board of Managers, staff have two applications for your consideration today, presented without changes.
Any questions from the board? If not, I'll have a motion.
Madam President, I move to Caprock permit number 20-115, 21-051.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have the water quality grant share application. Lauren, anything? We just have one? Yeah? Okay.
Good morning, President Priner.
Yep, go ahead.
Good morning, President Priner, Board of Managers. For your consideration today is one water quality grant application, R2110, on the consent agenda for a surcharge rain garden in the city of Shoreview. There is a proposed motion on page 39.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Lauren? If not, I'll have a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move approval of water quality grant application R21-10 as outlined in the above table and in accordance with the Rice Creek Watershed District staff recommendation based on established program guidelines dated June 8th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. We're going to recess our regular meeting, and the public hearing is open on the Rice Creek Watershed District's proposed ordering of the Privy Lake Outlet Structure Replacement Project. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments from the public on the project proposed to be constructed in the city of White Bear Lake. Before the Watershed District can provide ad valorem funds for the capital improvement, state law requires that the Board of Managers hold a public hearing, receive public comments, and make a judgment that the project is a sound and cost-effective project to help fulfill our water resource goals. That is the purpose of today's hearing. In accordance with state law, notice of this hearing was published for 2 successive weeks in the St. Paul Pioneer Press and mailed to all cities within the Watershed District, as well as the district's 4 counties. Additionally, a notice was placed in the White Bear Press and was mailed directly to all current owners of properties that were listed on the original assessment rolls for the construction of Privy Lake Outlet System in the 1970s. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Kyle Axtell, our project manager, to give a brief presentation of the proposed project. When his remarks are completed, the floor will be open to any members of the public who wish to address the board. At that time, if you wish to comment, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. If you have any written copy of the statement or any other documents you'd like to submit, please give them to Teresa Staskar, our meeting clerk. During public comment, managers are welcome to ask questions of commenters to clarify their remarks. I also may ask Mr. Axtell, our district engineer, to respond to any technical questions raised. Managers will hold their own comments about the project until the public hearing is closed. The board will have the opportunity to discuss the project at a regular meeting. Okay, Kyle.
Madam President, members of the public, thank you. My name is Kyle Axtell, project manager for the Rice Creek Watershed District. Apparently the audio is not working there, so I'll do my best to move back and forth here as we move through the presentation. First, I would just also note again regarding the noticing for this hearing, the notice was placed in the St. Paul Pioneer Press newspaper as required by statute on June 25th and July 2nd, 2021. We also additionally noticed it in the White Bear Press local paper on June 30th. Postcard notice was mailed to all owners of property within the original benefit rolls for the Privy Lake Outfall project. I'll get to that in a moment. And that postcard was mailed on June 25th. I will note I am aware of a few residents who found out about the meeting, did not receive the postcard. And we don't have a whole lot of control over that, unfortunately. The project concept plan and mailed notice was sent to counties in the watershed on June 21st. Mailed notice was sent to all Rice Creek Watershed District cities on June 21st as well, and was posted on our website and at the office and through our email noticing system on June 22nd of 2021. Again, so a brief outline of the presentation today. I'll be talking a little bit about what the Privy Lake Outfall project is, its location, and a brief history. It has an interesting history, so we'll spend some time on that, as well as take a look at just the summary of a 2020 condition assessment that was completed by the Rice Creek Watershed District engineer. We'll take a look at the existing lake outlet for Privy Lake versus the proposed concept. Go through the cost estimate and funding for the project, construction timing, our planned access route, as well as the benefits of the project, as well as drawdown options for the lake during construction. So the location of Privy Lake is just kind of off the south shore of White Bear Lake, within the city of White Bear Lake. There's kind of a dot on the map there. We've got a picture of the existing lake outlet structure, which has been there since 1979, 1980, when the project, the Privy Lake Outfall project, was constructed. On the map here, you can see there's kind of a line of, it's hard to see, but there's a yellow line and some pink triangles. That shows the route of the pipe that leaves Privy Lake. It runs kind of along Riviera Drive north through the city of White Bear Lake, crosses a small piece of the city of Matamidi, and heads down the hill into Birchwood Village and discharges at Halls Marsh. And then there's an outlet structure that the district constructed along with this project on Halls Marsh, where that flow ultimately leaves Halls Marsh and heads to White Bear Lake.
Kyle, could we see, we're getting an echo. Are you folks getting an echo out there too? No?
I'm hearing it, yeah.
We're hearing it up here. Maybe you could ask our. Everybody turn off their mics once. Let's see. Okay, go ahead and try that for a bit.
Okay, a little bit of history of this project. The surrounding land around Privy Lake historically was farmland, and it was developed in the 1960s into the single-family neighborhood that is there today. The lake itself was originally a natural wetland in the old farm field, and that was excavated as a part of the development construction and turned into the lake that we have today. It's about six or 7 acres in size. Averages about 6 feet deep or so. Where the lake sits is atop a kind of a heavy clay soil lens, and originally when constructed the lake had no outlet. Throughout the 1960s and early 70s, the early years of the existence of that development, there was a series of large rain events and snowmelt events that caused some significant flooding of the homes around the lake, again, given that there's no outlet, nowhere for the water to go. The whole neighborhood there drains to Privy Lake by a storm sewer that was installed at that time. Move into 1972, the Rice Creek Watershed District was first established as an agency. And then ahead to 1976, there was a petition submitted to the Watershed District by the cities of White Bear Lake and Birchwood Village to design and construct an outlet for Privy Lake in an effort to alleviate the significant flooding that had been occurring. As a part of that petition, the engineer was hired to take a look at some possible outlet routes for the lake. There were several outlet routes analyzed. The current configuration that I showed on the map earlier was the route that was eventually settled upon, and construction took place in the years of 1979 and 1980. I will also note at that time, as a part of that original Outfall project, the commercial land around the East County Line Road and County Road E was originally a part of that study. There were some outlet routes planned. I think it was called the Crossroads Outlet, to take runoff from that corridor down to Lost Lake. There was some opposition to that, and ultimately that was abandoned as an idea at that time. During the original project proceedings for the Privy Lake Outfall project, there was a lot of contention with the project. As folks who are still there, there are some folks in the area that have lived there this whole time. It was originally a special assessment, and so the cost of the project was assessed over 20 years to the landowners in the area that drained to the lake and down to Halls Marsh. And the total project cost was approximately $600,000 in 1980, which was substantial, and that's equivalent to about $2 million today. Most of the parcels in the area were assessed between $400 and $600 at that time. On the lakefront homes, the assessment was between $1,200 and $1,500. The municipal road right-of-ways contributed as well, the road authorities, as well as the developing properties that had not yet developed. Since the construction in 1980, activities have been very infrequent related to this project, and probably many folks who've moved there since then don't even know that the pipe is there. There's been occasional maintenance by the city of White Bear Lake, some emergency maintenance in recent years, which is what has led us to be here today. Again, most of that maintenance has been limited just to the outlet structure itself. In 2017, the Halls Marsh outlet that I mentioned at the very bottom of the system was reconstructed by the Watershed District, as the pipes there had basically failed and were causing some flooding at the bottom end of the system. And then moving forward to last year, we had our engineer, Houston Engineering, complete a full top-to-bottom system-wide condition assessment, which I'll go through now. That assessment included taking a look at the old plans for folks who live along the pipe alignment. There was some notice made, and you likely saw some folks in the field last summer just doing some field survey. And what that really has allowed us to do is get a modern plan and profile set, cross-sections of the system, so we know what it is, where it is. They're far more useful to us today than the old partial plan sets we have from 1979. Some of the pages are missing. So now we know what we have. As you can see, there's a field survey taking place on the outlet structure there. Overall, we actually did a televising of the entire pipe system. We found that the pipe system was overall generally found in good condition, which is really encouraging after all this time. There are some areas where that pipe, it's a 36-inch concrete pipe, is over 40 feet below grade, and it runs right between a couple of homes in Matamidi where it's 40 feet below grade. So, a repair or replacement of that pipe, if it were to fail, would be incredibly challenging. And there were a few interesting obstructions noted. There's some areas of concrete. Likely some of that might have been from some repair work that was done over the years. There's also a manhole cover in the pipe at one point. I have no idea how that got down in there, but it's there. Nothing that really obstructs flow in any meaningful way. The outlet structure itself, however, was found to be in poor condition and has exceeded its functional lifespan. And our engineer recommended that outlet structure be replaced. And that'd be consistent with the observations we've seen both from Rice Creek staff and City of White Bear Lake staff with the emergency repairs that have been needed in recent years. So on the left side of the screen is the original engineering drawings for the outlet structure. Again, it's a kind of a large concrete in-lake manhole. There's metal or steel trash baffles around the edges of it, and that maintains the lake water level. There is if you will, a flanged pipe through the side of it below the water level that in a new condition could be removed to draw the lake down if you needed to for some sort of maintenance. That is inoperable at this time. It's completely rusted together, or if we were to remove it, I doubt it could be put back in place. And so the concept that we're looking at is a little bit different for the new structure. I will note it's just a concept. The district engineer, if this project is ordered, would design the structure. These are just some notes I've made on kind of a typical structure cross-section at this time. But we'll be looking at a more modern stormwater pond outlet facility that is placed in the bank of the lake as opposed to out in the middle of the lake. It'd have a submerged pipe intake and a weir, or a water level control structure inside the structure that would have removable stop logs, so we could manage water levels if needed, either for maintenance or for water quality management down the road. So that's it'll have a longer lifespan, we would expect as well. So would still provide an emergency overflow if we had a significant rain event that exceeded the capacity of that inlet pipe. Water would be able to get out the structure through a grate on the top of that outlet structure. As I mentioned before, the original project, Privy Lake Outfall project, as it was known, was funded through a special assessment to what were called benefited properties. At the time, it was under Minnesota Statute 112, which today are the portions of that statute that were relevant are under Minnesota Statute 103D. In looking, and a traditional reading of statute would say that the Board of Managers may choose to fund the replacement of the structure through that original funding process, which would be, again, through special assessment. At this time, the cost of this repair is relatively inexpensive by today's standards, and just the cost of processing that special assessment and issuing it to the landowners in that area would significantly increase the project cost. We're talking double-digit percentages here. And so given that, the recommendation at this time is to not fund this project through special assessment and rather through the district's ad valorem district-wide levy. In order to do that, the board has to reorder the project. That's why we're here today, is that the proposal is really to modify the funding mechanism of this project so it's district-wide and not through the special assessment to the local landowners there. And further with that too, some of the reasons we're looking at that is that the structure with the added benefit of the drawdown capacity or function does allow the project to serve more of a water, or the outlet structure to serve more of a water quality function as well, instead of just local flooding. So the funding of this project would be through other authorities the district has through its ad valorem levy under Minnesota Statute 103B, as in boy. And again, this will note as well, though, that should there be further repairs or major action required on the pipe itself, that would incur larger costs. That would not, today's action, if ordered, would not prevent the district board from issuing a special assessment for future costs to maintain the Privy Lake Outfall project. But at this time, we're not looking at a special assessment for this work. Construction timing and access route. Again, we're working right now on a plan to see active construction occur this coming winter. Would likely be in January or February. We would need frozen conditions in order to do this work and working in the lake bed. So again, likely January or February. Probably shouldn't take more than 2 weeks or so if everything goes well. Restoration of disturbed land would occur later in the spring. And we are working with the homeowners directly adjacent to the outlet structure, and so access is planned between the homes at 2710 and 2716 Riviera North. There is an easement over the pipe alignments in that location along the property lines. We will likely need some additional access room outside of just the pipe alignment easement in order to complete this work. So again, we're working with those homeowners on the details of that. Benefits of the project largely include just a reduced chance of major structure failure. Again, I know we've had some issues in recent years that have caused the lake to drain down in the summer. We're also, just the style of the new structure that's being proposed, we expect a reduced amount of debris, trash, branches, and organics leaving Privy Lake and entering Halls Marsh and White Bear Lake downstream. We also gain the ability to actively manage water levels in the lake should that be desired. And the main reason that we're looking at that would be for water quality improvement. We're aware that the lake has seen some very robust algae blooms in recent years, and particularly this year. Water level management in the lake can allow us to accomplish a few different things. Rough fish control, so the lake is full of bullheads, fathead minnows, other fish species that tend to contribute to water quality problems by stirring up lake bed sediments, eating plant roots, things like that. So that tends to help drive internal nutrient cycling in the lake. drawing the lake down potentially could help consolidate organic sediments that have built up on the bottom of the lake and help them decompose. Could lead to an improved native plant community, and again, as I mentioned, and just in general, help to kind of disrupt that internal nutrient cycle, and ultimately, we would hope, lead to reduced algae blooms. With the lake drawn down as well, that's an opportunity to remove some sediment from the storm outfalls around the lake. We would look to the city for that work, as it is their storm sewer outfall, but could maybe work together on that as well. And so one of the big questions I know folks probably have is, what are we going to do with the lake drawdown to complete this work? There's really two options for that, and I mentioned this will be winter work. And the default option, or I guess the least maybe impactful to the surrounding community option would be just to cofferdam the area off. I've got just a photo there. Someone's building a large bridge abutment there in a river, but it'd be either through sandbags or sheet pile, just to cordon off the portion of the lake directly around the structure, so that we can drain just that area where the structure is. And that would allow, again, dewatering of the lake in the immediate area of construction. That would allow us to remove that existing structure, build the new structure, and that would be kind of maybe like routinely considered as a part of a DNR public waters work permit, something that has to be done in order to facilitate construction. Our preferred option would be to actually draw down the entire lake this winter, if possible. On one hand, it's less expensive. We simply open up the flow through that existing structure below the water level and let it drain out, as opposed to having to construct the actual cofferdam. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we hope that could actually improve water quality in the lake noticeably in future years, both again through rough fish control. We draw the lake down, it'll freeze solid to the bottom and essentially remove the bullheads, fathead minnows, etc., and consolidate those sediments. It would provide an opportunity this winter to get the storm outfalls dredged as well, concurrent with our work. It obviously would eliminate winter recreation on the lake, which I know folks use it for one season. I will note that in order to do that requires an additional public hearing under Statutes 103G as part of the DNR Public Waters permit process. This hearing today does not serve that purpose. We're mentioning it for, just so folks can hear about it. So you will likely see another notice in the mail for another hearing for that 103G lake drawdown process. In addition to that public hearing, it actually requires written approval from 75% of the homeowners on the lake. So that's, I believe, 26 of 34 parcels that have frontage on the lake. So again, we certainly we're hopeful that folks would be supportive of that option this winter. Several of the folks that I've actually spoken with on the phone about the project are supportive of that, but that is a decision for each homeowner to make as to whether or not they want to allow the full drawdown of the lake. So with that, I believe that's the end of my presentation here. Certainly open it up to questions or comments from folks who are present here. I do have, we'll get to that point. I have one written comment that I did receive by email that I would like to read into the record as part of the hearing request of the
Do you have it with you
resident.
now?
I do.
I am
yes.
going to open this up now to the public, and when you do come up, I ask you to put your name and address for the record, and feel free to tell us what you're thinking about this project. Kyle, go ahead and read the first one into the record.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This comment was submitted by Craig Hinton. Craig lives at 2668 North Riviera Drive, and he notes that he's a retired civil engineer. He says, I believe the Privy Lake outlet structure should be repaired or replaced in kind. The original structure worked well for about 35 years. The metal trash guard is a better choice than a trash rack since there will be no one to clear debris from the rack. I would recommend that the metal trash guard be attached with threaded bolts using epoxy instead of cinch anchors or expansion bolts, which tend to fail due to poor concrete and expansion and contraction. The money saved could be used to dredge the sand from the ends of the stormwater pipe outlets, as was done some years ago. The lake water elevation stays within a few inches of 977.5 even in very dry summers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now, if anybody'd like to come up, we're going to ask you to use the second microphone, and please state your name and address for the record. please feel free to come up and tell us what you're thinking.
So I have had all my shots, but I'm wearing this.
You're gonna have to use this because
Okay.
that doesn't work. I'm sorry. You're almost this.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go get that for you.
Oh, you're fine.
I think you're good now.
Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, so I'm wearing a mask just in case there are sensitivities that I'm not aware of. Anyway, my name is Bud Jensen. Ruth and I have lived at 701 Hall Avenue in Birchwood Village for approximately 41 or 2 years. And so we live on Hall's Marsh, and the Privy Lake project itself has been a problem for Hall's Marsh and our living there for a long period of time. And one of the things, we know a few people here on the board, and our experiences with the board have been sort of confrontational over the period of time on this project. And in our view, the project was likely ill-conceived to start with, and because of that, it leaves it's prone to errors and mistakes and misuse. So when I first saw the notice about the replacement of the Privy Lake outlet structure, I was interested in what was going on now, and I related it to our experience when the outlet structure from Hall's Marsh to White Bear Lake failed. And it took us approximately 2 years of working with the district to ultimately get that repaired. And it took maybe 2 years to acknowledge there was a problem. And so I was interested in this because it seems like the district is moving to replace this structure when it's in relatively okay and serviceable condition. So I'm kind of questioning how that occurs. And then also in the communications distributed, not distributed, but available, the notice of the public hearing referred to a planned concept and directs you to a website, the district website, where there's a short comment, and then there's reference to photographs and reports. But the short comment says that the district is the local government agency that's responsible for management and maintenance of the Privy Lake outlet structure. Within the engineer's report, there's a suggestion that a recommendation is going to be made to distribute somehow the maintenance and the management responsibilities to the communities that's in the offing. But there's no detail on that, and I don't know if any work has been done to do that transfer. And, we're here because we would like the entire project to work well, not necessarily just the outlet to the pipe system. And we believe that there's a lot of issues to be solved that are not really talked about, are apparently worked on, but they may be worked on in in the office that I'm not aware of. But anyway, a couple of comments interest me that there's two, what I'll call hookups to the outlet pipe, one from White Bear Lake and one from Matamita, that are unexplained. And we'd like to know why they exist and how they were approved and what they do and how they affect the system. And also, I think some of the photographs that were shown here, and within the, one of the documents referred to on the website is the Houston Engineering Technical Report dated July of 2020. And in that report, they show photographs that they took when they looked at the pipe. And several areas of the pipe, as these photographs showed, have, questionable objects in there and are in need of repair. And we haven't heard anything yet as to how that's going to happen and whose responsibility that's going to be. The other thing that the storm sewer water, as you all know, runs directly into Halls Marsh without any treatment of any kind. And it stays there until it migrates into White Bear Lake. And when this project was originally conceived, the minutes in Birchwood reference a comment from the manager of the Rice Creek Watershed District that said that they would maintain Halls Marsh. And there hasn't been any remediation activity for the water going from the outlet into Halls Marsh ever since this project has been in place for 40 years. And we believe it's the district's responsibility to maintain Halls Marsh, that they cannot just continue to dump storm sewer waters into Halls Marsh without having a responsibility for remediation. And as concerns the project under consideration here, probably is a project that needs to be done, but what we think is that there has to be a more of a holistic view to what's the future of this Privy Lake project. And we believe, from what we know, it was not a good design from the start, and we're building on to that, continuing to build onto that design, and talking about transferring responsibilities to the individual communities, not really knowing what that means. But we'd like to see some alternative considered. My experience is not engineering, but I think the maintenance of this pipe is pretty problematic. The building permit originally issued for the project required that the district obtain easements from all property owners affected by the project, and that was never done by the district. And the reports indicate that there are areas where they don't have easements to access the property for maintenance. We think that's a big issue. It's been a big issue since day one, and it should be corrected. So my objection is mainly that the project itself, I believe, is ill-fitting to the times we're living in, and was not well designed to begin with, and that the whole project should be looked at in a holistic view as what's going to happen to this in the next 10 years.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and we'll take other comments, and then maybe we can have some input. Kyle, could you put the map up so we can see this a little bit better? On the back screen, yeah. Thank you. Okay, anybody else who'd like to comment today, please come to the microphone.
I just had a question.
You'll have to come to the microphone because we have to have it recorded. Name and address, please. That one, yeah.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen O'Hearn, and I reside at 2673 Riviera Drive South in White Bear Lake. I had a question first before my comments. What are you experiencing in Hall's Marsh that is of the concern? You said there were problems there, and I didn't quite understand what the problems were.
Okay, wait, because he'll have to come up and put it on the microphone. too.
Okay.
If you want to answer that, go ahead here. Yes, please come up. Sure. Name and address again.
Yeah, the problems in Halls Marsh is that there's storm sewer water untreated coming into it on a regular basis from the Privy Lake Outfall project. And that creates a huge growth environment within the pond because of the chemicals. It creates a transferring of materials such as sediment into the pond. And the marsh area is, like just totally green that, it turns to pink and lavender because of the continuation of the water untreated coming from Privy Lake down into Halls Marsh. Let's see, I think earlier, maybe a year ago, the district approved a project to improve, to clean the water from White Bear Lake that goes into Bald Eagle Lake because the water was too polluted. And that's kind of a remediation project that benefits Bald Eagle Lake. But water comes into Halls Marsh, it's not treated, creates a tremendous growth environment and destroys wildlife and the environment. And then after it sits there for a while, it goes into White Bear Lake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead with your comments, please.
That is very good to know because we also are experiencing this in Privy Lake itself. Right now, I've been living there since 1972, and the condition of our lake is the absolute worst I have ever seen it. I'll try to kind of go through different things, but for right now, it's not an algae problem. It is a submerged weed and surface weed problem. When the water level was lowered at one point, the surface weeds were able to hit the ground, and then the sunlight came to it, and for the first time we really saw a tremendous excess of submerged weeds and then the surface weeds starting. So I can imagine where you are, you're getting all of that coming also through you. And we did contact Lake Restoration. They applied for a DNR permit, and the permit came through, but it was not enough to go out really into the lake. It was maybe 15 feet out. Now they've amended the permit to be 50 feet out. Our lake needs to be treated. We at one time had great blue herons, egrets, good fish, not rough fish. We had ducks all the time. We still have ducks. We have mallards. We have wood ducks because we have wood duck houses on the pond, on the lake. And it was a beautiful environment, lots of wildlife, lots of waterfowl. Now we don't see egrets. We don't have the great blue herons, the green herons. It's just become a mess. And so I know this isn't totally related to the weir, but at the same time, when this is drawn down, and I think the homeowners are going to be in favor of having the weir fixed because it's broken, we need to have something in place so that the water is treated so that in our environment where we are, when it goes through the pipe system into Hall's Marsh, which is the first time I've really known about this, that it isn't the big mess that they're receiving. So we're asking, and maybe this is not the place to do it, but it needs to be on record, that we need our lake treated in the spring, and the homeowners are ready to pay for the treatment, but we need this happening, and unfortunately, it hasn't been happening. So that's really why we're here today. We're very disappointed in our lake. Like I said, it's the worst we've ever seen it, and we know that there are things that can be done to improve the water quality, but it's not been done up to this point. And I know that if it was done, it would affect you and everybody else that is involved in this whole thing. Because we're literally receiving all the runoff from all the homes going through this system. That was supposed to be also dredged at certain points. I know this for a fact. It hasn't been dredged for probably 20 years, these outlets. And yeah, so we're looking for some answers here, and we're looking certainly to improve the water quality. But I will honestly, I did not know until today how it was affecting you all. So, okay. So anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to comment? Please come up. Name and address for the record.
My name's Jill Marudis, 2643 Riviera Drive South. I had no intentions of saying anything at all. But I guess listening to Catherine, and I have to agree with everything. We've lived there 21 years, and I've seen the deterioration of it. We had all these wonderful wildlife animals there, or fowl. And now we've seen it go away. And I had a picture in May of the egret on our raft that we have in front of the house, and the water was clear. June 5th, it was green. The water was green. And this was the worst, is that a couple of weeks ago, I saw a duck standing on top of the water. Now, does that tell you anything about how awful it is? So we've got to do something. And I do have a question for Kyle. He was talking about the dredging, the storm.
We'll let Kyle address everything after.
Yeah.
Comments.
Do I
Go
do
ahead
that
and
later?
ask the question.
Oh, my question. Should I say my question?
Sure.
Yeah. We live right next to one of the things where the water comes out, and it just rushes out during the rainstorm. But I'm wondering if he was talking about dredging it, would that mean clearing out all that gunk under there so the water can flow better, or what? I don't know what that means. And I just because we live right by it, I want to know. The pipe runs right between our house and the Sowers, who's sitting right over there. And I think when it comes, it just comes like crazy. But, I'm sure there's a lot of silt or whatever that's flowing down with it. It catches branches and so forth from the street. But this might be a real silly question, too. If we were to dredge it and get 76%, which I doubt, that's a hard number to attain. But how does it get refilled? Is it just by nature, rain? Is that it? So if it were this year, it would be a pretty slow process. We'd be having a golf course out there or something. My husband has recommended, and we've thought about it, but we can't do it by person, is to put a fountain or some kind of water action in there to keep the water moving. And I don't know how that would work, but has anybody ever done that before in our area? in the city, in the county, or the suburban lake, suburban small. And I can't even call our place a lake anymore. It's a pond, a sludge pond, seriously. I've taken many pictures of it, and when they say Lake Privy, it's, I mean, anybody who comes to our house, I have to apologize, if they're sitting out there, because it smells, and it's all green and awful. So really, I don't know if I had any real questions. I just wanted to come and complain.
That's fine, we appreciate it. Thank you for coming up.
Yeah. So I do have that question for,
We're gonna go then
Okay.
after anybody else that'd like to comment, so we can answer all the questions if possible at once.
Hi, my name is Mary Sauer. I live at 2649 Riviera Drive South. My first question isn't necessarily for myself, but for an elderly neighbor that's lived on the lake since 1963 and has seen it over the years, and how it's transformed and all of that. And her concern, and she asked me to ask this question because she's not able to get here physically, but will the new weir lower our lake level in favor of White Bear Lake? Because, well, you know how the history recently of White Bear Lake and their low. So her concern is that we would somehow be lowering our lake level in order to accommodate White Bear Lake. I'm not saying that's true. I promised her I would ask that question.
Good question.
So if someone can let me know at some point what the answer is to that question. And just to piggyback on to Kathleen, we've spent a lot of time. I contacted Rice Creek last summer when our lake started this immense bloom of green and floating weeds and duckweed, and worked with Lake Restoration, talked to the city of White Bear Lake, formed letters, hand-delivered them around the lake twice, had treatment. I think part of our problem, and if anybody has any advice how to deal with the DNR, because some of this seems to be permitting issues. My disappointment in this is all the work that Kathleen and I have done and people responding. The initial permit was modified, reduced greatly, and when Lake Restoration came out, and they may be negligent here in the fact that he recognized that day that probably what the permit allowed for was never going to deal with the condition of the infestation of the weeds that we have. So you could make the case that he probably should have gotten back to us and said, I don't know that this is going to work. But it's frustrating to me to go through all of that and then have to request an amendment and then get a modification and then request another amendment and send pictures. I've sent pictures and pictures and pictures. That's frustrating. I don't know if you have any advice on how to deal with that. I would have thought the DNR would have come out to our lake and at least assessed what the current condition is to know what to prescribe a lake treatment company and how to deal with that. Not having ever seen it, I'm not sure how. It's like a doctor prescribing for a patient he's not seen. So that's a frustration. And to piggyback onto Kathleen, Kyle, my question for you is, again, how can we seek your assistance, along with maybe the DNR and maybe the city, with if we draw down all the water, which I'm not against at this point, but my concern is in the spring, if the water level is shallow and the sun is there, the weeds are going to grow. And so how we're going to get on top of that so that we don't see what we're seeing currently. So that's my nickel's worth of comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to comment? Name and address for the record.
All right, good morning. My name is Bill Gerst. I live at 2722 Riviera Drive North. I'm one house off of the area where the weir is, right next door, so I know the neighbor. She's unfortunately not here today. When I moved into the house a bunch of years ago, I hate to say 30-some years, my driveway was partly new and partly old, and I asked. Nobody seemed to know until I talked to the neighbors. They know the answers, of course. And the reason was the pipe from the weir went under my driveway and then worked its way out into Birchwood area. So anyway, I really only have one question today. I agree with what people are saying. It is just terrible looking. And I think the only birds that like it anymore are the geese, and that's a different problem. But anyway, if there is a vote and if 3/4 of the homeowners agree to reduce the water level and fix the weir that way, it's my understanding that the Watershed District is responsible for fixing the weir. But I heard somebody say, I thought I did, that if the pond is drained, that the city of White Bear would possibly be responsible for dredging the water out again, or dredging the bottom again. I recall a number of years ago, the pond was, people have mentioned that, it was drained and dredged at the time. It didn't seem to do much over a period of years. But I'm wondering if the city would do that again, or if there would be a different process going forward, if indeed the pond is drained. So.
Well, that's that question. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Anybody else? Name and address for the record, please.
President and Board of Managers, my name is Connie Talon, and I am a representative of the City of White Bear Lake. And I just want to take this opportunity to say that we definitely are in favor and support this project specifically, which is the outlet structure being replaced, because it is failing and we have had to fix it a couple of times. And I want to just show my appreciation for the partnership that the city and the Watershed District have had over the years and for this project, and also to thank Kyle, because he has been a fantastic project manager throughout this whole process. And I know that the history has been very challenging to try to figure out. And he has, the entire process, he has kept the city in the loop with this project. So just want to say I really appreciate all the work that you've all been doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate White Bear too. All right, Kyle's, who else would like to speak? Here you go, name and address for the record.
Good morning, managers. I come with a couple of different hats on. My name is Alan Cantrud. I'm the counsel to the city of Birchwood. So the council met last night, and none of the council members could be here due to other obligations, so you get me. Anyway, much like the Jensens, and thanks for their comments too, I would suggest that more than a majority of the city council of Birchwood actually grew up in the city. So they've seen the effects of essentially this engineering project from the 60s, which has proven that we weren't very good engineers in the 60s. And so the problems are essentially what the Jensens pointed out: plant, animal, mineral, because it's all going into Birchwood. And so the suggestion that I think Mr. Jensen made at the beginning was that there was a suggestion in one of your engineering reports that there should be participation from the community that's getting the water for maintenance costs and the like. And so I'm not making this up, I'm just delivering the message that there's not much of an appetite from the City Council in Birchwood currently to participate, at least financially, in maintenance of something that they really feel was kind of imposed on them. And so I also represent the White Bear Lake Conservation District as counsel to that organization, and of course that organization is paying attention to this project because what happens to Halls Marsh also happens to White Bear Lake. So we're paying attention from a water quality standpoint. So when and if you take the public hearing to draw down the lake, please be mindful of where all that water is going to go. So it's going to go right to White Bear Lake eventually, and to get there it has to go through Birchwood. And so beyond that, taking that hat off, I'd also like to represent the White Bear Center for the Arts, since I was chair of the board there, and I'd like to thank all of you and your administrator for the boundary adjustment that you guys approved to take into account our expansion. So if you haven't been through White Bear Lake to see that project, we're about 2/3 done. So thank you for all that and your patience. I know these projects are not very fun to prosecute, so anyway, good luck.
Well, thank you. Hey, anyone else would like to speak? If not, we'll go move ahead. I think Kyle's the man of the hour. Kyle would like to address any of these issues? And then Chris, if you could, oh, go ahead.
President Preiner, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Boy, those are sensitive. It sounds like the comments fall into two camps. One is the replacement of the outfall, or the outlet, and the other is all about the water quality. Two distinct venues, and I think we should maybe address them that way, and then have the tie-in with the water drawdown and how that might be a benefit again, and reiterate on that. I would suggest water quality first, and whatever Kyle might know about that, Matt obviously is our Lake and Stream individual.
Okay, President Preiner, I will do my best to reply to the questions that were raised today. I have some notes. I may not have everything on my notes, so we'll do our best here. Regarding, I'll talk, Nick, as you alluded to, I'll talk to maybe general water quality tips and things first, or kind of the state of Privy Lake and points downstream, as far as I'm aware personally. And it starts really at Privy Lake with the nature of the surrounding landscape that drains to it. Obviously, it's a fully developed watershed. Single-family homes primarily, a lot of streets, driveways, and it's very steep topographically. There's a lot of relief. I can say personally, I lived in that neighborhood for about 3.5 years recently. I don't currently, but I lived on Rolling View Drive. So I'm well aware of that. And I think we're looking at 40 years of land use that has contributed grass clippings, leaves. Certainly, it's a very heavily treed neighborhood. And that material all makes its way to Privy Lake, and it has for many, many years. And so that's where we see that contributing to the organic debris and sediment buildup in the lake. Residents throughout the neighborhood, it's not just folks that live on the lake, it's everybody around there that need to keep their grass clippings out of the street, rake the leaves up, compost them, take them to the county compost site if you can't at home. City street sweeping, Connie and I have talked about that before. So that, those are all important things that can be done. It's also a very difficult environment to do anything in a retrofit projects in the neighborhood. The soils are very heavy clay. Rain gardens don't work very well, unless you can put them right next to where a storm sewer is that you can drain tile. The water's still going to get to the lake. Might be a little cleaner, but water does not soak into the ground very well in that neighborhood. And so that's a challenge to doing things, projects on the landscape. And as folks have mentioned, that does all eventually drain down to Halls Marsh and White Bear Lake as one system today. There was a question about a fountain. We have not seen benefits from fountains. It certainly will stir water up in the area. You might have some localized, visual reductions in algae growth, but not something that we would typically recommend as having any cost benefit, favorable cost benefit. We've seen it also with the shallow depth of the lake. They tend to suck up debris and weeds and sediment and plug up, and maintenance can be very challenging. Having dealt with fountains, some golf courses we've worked with on projects, not something I would typically recommend. That's probably what I have for water quality, unless there's a different specific question.
President Preiner? If I could, Kyle, would you reiterate the idea of the drawdown on the lake and how that may help water quality?
Yeah.
You noted the watershed contributions and how we might clean up those inputs, but in the lake itself?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, our thoughts with the drawdown. Keep in mind this would be in the winter. This would not be summer, and I'll get to lake level stuff on the back end of this. In the winter, the purpose of the drawdown is simply to allow the basin, the lake basin, to freeze solid to the bottom. And what that does is it will eliminate the rough fish that are in the lake, bullheads, minnows, things like the fathead minnows that we're aware of that are in the lake that tend to cause problems. You also get the freezing and consolidating those sediments around the edge of the lake. That can help promote native aquatic plant regrowth in the future. Post drawdown, it can help reduce, and I'm not sure, we've never done a plant study, an aquatic plant study on Privy Lake. You know, if there is curly leaf pondweed and I wouldn't probably expect to see Eurasian water milfoil there, just the fact there's no boats. But we don't know. But a drawdown like that can help knock back some of those invasive species as well. You know, the jury's really out as to whether that can immediately impact and improve water quality. Privy Lake is different than some others that we've done some larger lakes that have had some drawdown projects on them recently, in that you could drain Privy down all the way, you know, or all the way to the point where it would freeze out. We've done that on projects that we've constructed in Hanson Park, in New Brighton, Mirror Lake, over in St. Anthony, and saw some pretty good results from that in subsequent years. But there's not a whole lot of science on that. So, you know, we can't say with certainty that it would be a benefit, but it's not going to hurt. And we think that there's a chance that it could help. Regarding the couple questions about lake level, again, this would be a winter drawdown. So refilling the lake would rely on primarily snowmelt in the spring. And that would happen, you know, as we start to ease out of winter. I think the lake would fill quite quickly with runoff from the surrounding neighborhood. It's a small water body, relatively quick retention time. So, you know, I don't think we would see a prolonged period of low water level on Privy Lake. It doesn't take much rain to flush the lake. Regarding, and then the question that there was about Privy Lake level versus White Bear Lake, just to answer that, if the outlet structure is replaced, the lake water level will remain exactly where it is today. That outlet elevation would be maintained, and really has absolutely no bearing or relation whatsoever to water levels on White Bear Lake.
President
Any-
Briner,
Go ahead.
if I could, Kyle, would you reiterate the matter about the lake drawdown? I think you said we need another public hearing in order to do that?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
to be clear, this meeting is not about drawing down the lake, correct?
Correct, yeah. So currently, you know, barring any other decision on a full lake drawdown, the approach would be simply to dewater the area directly around the outlet structure. That's the default. So if the project moves forward, at a minimum, that will happen to allow for reconstruction of a new outlet structure and removal of the existing one. You know, the plan would be to have a separate public hearing, and as I mentioned under statutes 103G, as in George, for the drawdown itself. That will happen later this summer. Notice, I believe, I'd have to check the legal notice requirements. I believe the city is notified, or any municipalities, DNR, and then specifically the 34 homes, properties that have frontage on the basin. We'll double check that to make sure we're following protocol. But that hearing would really be for those 34 homeowners specifically, with the intent, hopefully, to achieve approval from 26 of them. If we fall short and get 25, then there's no drawdown. And that's required, whether it be now or 5 years from now, if we want to try a drawdown in the future, or even something that we wanted to do it on like a periodic basis, every 3 or 4 years, whatever, you know, the regime would be. That approval is required every time, as a part of the DNR permitting process. So that will not happen without approval of the residents.
Madam President.
Go ahead. No, Mick? I'm sorry.
As a follow-up, thank you, President Priner. In regards to Ms. Sauer's question about the exposed lake bed and then how the lake regenerates, I just suggest that as a part of that public hearing, if we come to that be something we contemplate.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Sure.
you.
With a lot of detail on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not have those details with me today.
Okay. Wait a minute. Manager Waller?
Kyle, do you intend to have some dredging done during this, if the drawdown comes? And who's going to take that responsibility? I believe that was a question that was asked.
Thank you, Manager Waller. That was on my list here. The project that we're proposing, the outlet replacement, is strictly that, as far for the Watershed District's purpose. You know, my hope would, and we'd talk to the city about that, the storm sewer outfalls, and I don't want to step on Connie's toes here, certainly step up and refute me if you see otherwise. The storm sewer outfalls are part of the city's infrastructure, and sediment that comes from the storm sewer, as whether it be at Privy Lake or any other water body, is responsibility of the storm sewer owner under their municipal separate storm sewer permit through PCA. So we would look to the city to complete that maintenance work, and it'd be a great, if we can get if the whole lake drawdown happens, it's a great time to do it, to piggyback the work while we have it in a situation that can be done. Otherwise, Privy Lake is very challenging to access without that.
And a second question from Kyle. Is there any room on that gully that runs, well, it's technically a precinct in White Bear Lake, but it's in the Washington County side that goes down to Halls Marsh. Is there any possibility in there of installing a water quality project?
Without,
I mean, that comes to my mind.
Okay, without surmising too much, are you referring to like Teague Schmidt's Park down in Birchwood?
No, I was talking about right off County Road, East County line.
Okay.
There's quite a gully. It falls all the way down.
Oh, that goes straight down to White Bear Lake. I think you mentioned it went to Halls Marsh. That goes right down to White Bear Lake.
Oh, I thought that went to Halls Marsh eventually. No.
No.
So there isn't any room in there as far as from Privy Lake to Halls Marsh to put like an iron sand filter in that was asked about?
Okay, so I'm going to try and follow on. There's multiple items you mentioned. So currently, I'll step back. Currently, the pipe system runs from Privy Lake on the route on the screen down to Halls Marsh. Are you talking about like moving the pipe to a different outlet location?
On that right away, the pipe, does it offer any opportunities to put a water quality project in? The one that was referred to was
Could I ask if you could
iron
refer this for our
hands.
discussion, because this is still part of a public hearing, and that's not pertaining to that. But
Well,
we
this
can
is
do-
a
we can-
water
well, we can do it for
quality,
discussion.
this
Yeah.
is a water quality issue, and so that's why, before this is forgotten, my mind may not remember this later on today.
Well, we only have one more thing, and then we can talk about it. Okay,
President-
anything else,
Yeah,
Kyle?
President Premier, I could respond to that very quickly.
Very quickly,
I think,
good.
on the pipe itself, an iron enhanced sand filter would not work on the pipe system itself. So that would not work. There are some concepts that have been looked at for Teague Schmidt's Park, but it really is in conflict with the existing uses in the park. I've spoken with the mayor of Birchwood about this previously, and it's challenging.
I wasn't talking about the park necessarily, but Privy Lake itself and the outlet.
It's all homes. There's really no place for a project there.
Not in the outlet structure either, huh?
No. The last note I had was about maintenance costs and responsibility. There were some comments to that. As it stands, the outlet structure, the pipes alignment, Halls Marsh outlet, all of that, they're watershed district facilities. And so there is not a proposal or a consideration for City of White Bear Lake, Matamidi, or Birchwood Village, Ramsey County, or Washington County to contribute any costs to this project. So that's clear.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Go ahead, Chris.
Madam President, if Kyle's done there was a couple other ones that I had noted questions.
Chris, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Chris Otterness, District Engineer. One of the questions was regarding a couple of the locations where a city storm sewer pipe was hooking up into the Privy Lake outlet pipe. And that was made by Mr. Jensen. That is correct. There are a couple locations where there was a hookup done at some point between the establishment of this project in 1979 up to today, somewhere along that time frame. There were a couple of hookups made. We don't have that in our record, or at least we haven't been able to find that in our record yet, or how or when those hookups occurred. They're a relatively small area coming into the pipe, and there is capacity in the Privy Lake outlet pipe for those connections. So I believe we addressed those questions at this time. I see Kyle has something to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, the one it's just a surface intake in the middle of the woods. It doesn't collect any stormwater runoff. It's kind of at the top of the hill on the edge of Matamidi and Birchwood, so. And the other one is, there's a little pond on the corner of Riviera, I believe Riviera and East County Line Road, and that pond discharges into the system.
Thank you, Kyle.
And then, Madam President, I'll continue if I may. There's another comment by Mr. Jensen regarding how the project came about and some of the deficiencies in the project. And I would say that Mr. Jensen is correct in that there are a couple of very obvious deficiencies with how the project was created from the start. One of them being that there was a lack of easements provided for along the system. That is one thing that the district is looking into, particularly in this area where we're going to be working in the outlet structure of getting an easement there for access into the future. So at least that portion of it would be accessible to the district via an easement. As for the rest of the pipe, that would be something that would need to be taken on into the future. Again, this involves multiple properties. It goes underneath multiple city streets, rights of way, and so it'll be very complicated to try to recreate that easement all the way along the system. It would be something that's going to take some time to look into and address, but certainly that is of interest and for the district in this initial project at the outlet structure. The other thing that Mr. Jensen noted was the lack of described responsibility for continued maintenance of the system. That's also something that we did not find within the record, that acknowledgement that a particular entity was responsible into the future for any of these different items. And given that the district created that as part of its powers under 103D, short of anything else, and Mr. Kolb, if he has anything to add or if I say anything correctly, he could correct what I'm saying. But that responsibility resides with the district because of its establishment of the project. But that responsibility again would be to the project itself, which again also conveys with it the landowner responsibility to contribute toward things related to that project. And I see Nick has a comment on that.
I just, excuse me, note that the district took it on as a facility. We amended our watershed management plan to identify the facility.
And one more thing related, that project again was related to the outlet structure, that pipe going all the way down to Halls Marsh, and then that outlet of Halls Marsh. As far as I'm aware, nothing related to the project involving the dredging of sediments either within Halls Marsh or Privy Lake. So that is something that is unrelated to the project as far as any documentation that we have available to us.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
And lastly, Chris, it was noted the obstructions in the pipe or the additional cement pieces and the top. Would you comment in regards to its effect on the pipe or the outflow, or does it cause a problem?
Sure, Madam President, Board of Managers. So those, as indicated by Kyle, those three objects that are located inside the pipe are not currently providing any significant obstruction to flow. It'd be my recommendation that as available and convenient, those would be removed. One of the more obvious ones would be the piece of concrete that's located close to the outlet. That might be something that could be included within our outlet structure replacement to pull that in. They're removing a couple of the other items in the pipe may be more challenging where they're in locations that are less accessible, but certainly if we can determine the means of doing that, those would be good things to complete, although currently right now they aren't serving as any sort of significant obstruction.
Go ahead.
And lastly, Houston Engineering did complete a report on the system, and the report found that the outlet is in need of a replacement, and you're favoring or recommending a current, up-to-date outlet structure. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. We don't have final plans for that structure yet, but certainly, it'll be something that'll be engineered to a modern or current standard. And again, we don't know the details of that at this time, but we're going to take into account what the best long-term maintenance condition will be when designing that. We do feel that that current design is not favorable to long-term maintenance due to that how that structure is constructed with that metal flange around the structure. So we don't recommend replacing it in kind. We would recommend something that is of a more modern design.
Okay, is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Please come up to the...
I promise to be very brief.
That's fine.
This is more about my opinion and a piece of advice. When we started this last year, trying to get the water quality improved, it was like herding cats. God bless them all, but it was like herding cats and dropping off and letters and walking door to door. In the process, we elicited we initially had 15 homeowners that agreed about, as awful as it looks, we only had 15 initially. But with talking to other neighbors who were on board and they talking to the neighbors who hadn't responded, anyway, fast forward, we do have 26 people that have agreed with this. So my advice is, you'll get that 26 if we can somehow convince people, and I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but that it's tied to the water quality. If we can tie this to the water quality, you'll probably get your 26 homeowners. If we can't tie it to the improved water quality, and I know that'll be working with the DNR because we're big enough to have a permit in order, to treat the lake. So that's it can be done, but you're gonna need some help with that. So.
Okay. All right. There being no further testimony from the public, I close the public hearing and open the matter for the board discussion and action during our regular meeting. Oh.
Maybe at Ocean could take a look at the public hearing on Drawdown, some sort of estimate of the rough fish quality problems in that lake. We know that we've had significant success removing carp, other rough fish, advancing water quality, and the drawdown would get rid of all that rough fish. And maybe Matt can provide us some additional information to assist us at a public hearing on that point. Second comment is that the fact that we're, in the first time, had local financial support, and this time we're paying for it with ad valorem, reflects our current policy of this board in terms of how it maintains its facilities, and we did decide as a matter of our public policy to make this a facility. But third thing is, I believe that this still also has a major stormwater component to it, and we are not the stormwater conveyance responsible party. So that leaves us still with the cities as being responsible for assisting us on those aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next thing is open mic. Is there anybody in the public?
Madam President, I have a comment to make.
Can we hold it off till we open that subject again?
Well, I thought that's what we were doing.
No, we're on open mic right now.
I'm sorry.
So if there's anybody else in the audience has any other subjects that would like to comment, we'll do that. Seeing none, now we're right to where you want to be, back to ordering Privy Lake Outlet Structure Replacement Project. And thank you, Mike.
Sorry about
Your
that.
comments will be noted, and then we'll do John.
Well, so, Madam President, I suppose we have to move the resolution for the discussion. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Page 52 of our packet.
President Preiner, perhaps Kyle could give a short introduction so the folks present could follow how we're shifting gears here.
Sure, that'd be fine. Kyle?
Okay. Madam President, with the conclusion of the public hearing, we'll just note, obviously, we've had robust discussion, a lot of comments today. Our hope is that those have been, addressed satisfactorily. As it stands, I have a memo on page 53 of your packet that goes into a little more detail about the project, on what is being proposed. Again, we're proposing this project, that the board order this project under pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 103B.251. Our cost estimate is roughly $80,000 at this time, maybe up to $25,000 or so engineering and $55,000 construction cost. I've already gone through all the history of this, but on page 54 of your packet, there are 3 motions associated with this action. We do have Resolution 2021-13, which is on page 55 of your packet, which would have the effect of ordering the project and allowing us to continue further with project plans, development, et cetera. Proposed motion number 2 would approve a task order with the district engineer with a total cost of $23,200 to undertake the project design and construction oversight for the project. And then the third motion would authorize the district administrator to approve any additional services requests with the engineer under that task order up to a total aggregate amount not to exceed $25,500. It's about a 10% contingency on the engineering side.
Okay, so let's work on the resolution first. Page 55, 56.
Madam President, I would move that we adopt resolution number 2021-13, ordering the Privy Lake Outlet Structure Replacement Project pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 103B.251, based on a finding that the project will be conducive to public health and promote the general welfare, and is in compliance with Minnesota Statutes 103B.205 to 103B.255, and our resource management plan adopted pursuant to 103B.231.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Madam President, this is a resolution just for the outlet structure only.
Right.
And it's very evident today that we've had a large amount of the public, considering our meetings, no one ever comes. They've come to visit us today. And so thank you all for coming. It's our first day back here since the COVID, over a year, and it's very nice to see everyone here. And so many organizations represented today. I mean, I'm very impressed. But what we heard today was that there's a large frustration with this project for decades and decades, from the village of Birchwood and from those the residents that live around the lake itself, and particularly the water quality issues. And we've been asked, I think the theme of it is for a holistic approach. And this is not going to settle that problem or even start to. And I think that's something that we have to take a look at to see what we can do. There's water quality issues about the water coming into Privy Lake. There's water quality issues about the water going out of Privy Lake to Halls Marsh and to White Bear Lake. And and I realize retrofit is an extremely expensive problem. And we've done a little piecemeal down at Halls Marsh, and we're going to do a little piecemeal up here at Privy Lake. But we need to take a look at a holistic approach to this. And that's what I'd ask, that we start to consider that. Drawdowns are good. I'm not against any drawdowns. They kill off a lot of things. Hopefully you'll have water come back in there before the trees arrive. But that will have to depend on the global weather. So, but I'd ask the board today that we consider very strongly what we've heard from all the testifiers about a holistic approach, including the water quality issue. I don't know how we go forward on that, but I ask we do.
Okay. Nick?
President Preiner, I'll just note for the managers that the whereas of the resolution that was motioned, number 6, 7, and 8 are regarding water quality. It notes the drawdown capability that the new outlet would provide. Kyle appropriately noted this may improve water quality, and we know there's a lot of science about the internal as well as the external loading to the lake, and certainly that's part of the district's charge, so we are attentive to it.
And through this document, we can move forward on that issue also.
And Madam President, I agree there's some components of water quality, but it's very limited here. And so the board needs to take a look at a holistic approach, because this is a project that was put in 1980. That's 40-some years ago, and it doesn't look like it was well conceived then. And there's more moving parts here with the three different cities, White Bear Lake, Matamita, and the village of Birchwood. So, again, this is a very limited approach when we've been asked for a larger holistic examination of the area.
I believe this is the beginning of the structure to make things change. So we have to start with one thing or the other. So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Manager Waller?
I'll vote yes for the outlet structure.
Wynand?
Yes.
Bradley?
Yes.
Wakeman?
Yes.
Reiner, yes, motion passes. All right, proposed motion number 2. Page 54.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve Houston Engineering's scope of service with the total cost of $23,200 as defined in the attached task order 2021-011 dated July 1st, 2021, authorizing the board president to execute the document.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Proposed motion number 3.
Madam President, I move to authorize the district administrator to approve additional services requests under task order 2021-011 up to a total aggregate amount not to exceed $25,500.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
And that concludes this part of it, if anybody has anything else. Otherwise, we're going to move on to U.S. Home for our drainage petition. Thank you. And we have Ashley.
Morning, Madam President, Board of Managers, Ashley Ritchie, District Technician and Acting Public Drainage Inspector. Before you, starting on page 62 in your packet, you have the U.S. Home Corporation Public Drainage Petition on Anoka County Ditch 72. We, at the workshop on Monday, had Houston Engineering present their engineering findings. Nothing's changed since then. So right now we are recommending that you accept the report and set a public hearing date to be scheduled on August 11th at your regular board meeting.
Okay, I'll entertain, resolution -2021-14. On page 65.
Yep, 65.
2021-14, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers Drainage Authority for Noka County Ditch 72, that we order accepting the engineer's report. The Board of Managers set a public hearing on the petition action during its regular meeting on August 11, 2021 at 9 a.m. or thereafter on the agenda as determined by the board at the Shoreview City Hall Council Chambers, 4600 Victoria Street, Shoreview, Minnesota. And the Board of Managers directed staff to prepare and provide notice of the hearing as required by statutes 103E.227 and 103E.806 and is otherwise required by Rice Creek policy.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? We'll call the vote. Waller?
Yes.
Wynant?
Yes.
Bradley?
Yes.
Wakeman?
Yes.
Reiner, yes. Motion passes.
All right.
Go ahead.
Next up, we have before you the Anoka County Public Drainage Petition along ACD 5362, the Peoples Lateral. This is a little different than the previous petition for the ACD 72. This was started by the county, and so that means it starts under a different process than we would typically see with private development. I will invite Attorney Kolb to elaborate on that process and the statutory requirements.
Madam President, members of the board, this involves an old portion of the drainage code that was moved out of the drainage code many decades ago and moved into the road laws. Road authorities, in particular in this case a county under statutes chapter 163, which is their general authority to manage their roadways, and specifically section 163.17 allows a road authority to petition the drainage authority for modification of the drainage system for the convenience of the roadway. That statutory provision requires certain compliance by the road authority prior to the submittal of the request to the drainage authority. In your packet, beginning on page 66, you see the county's actions. There begins with a resolution and then a request to the Watershed District as the drainage authority. My opinion is that the county has complied with its requirements under Chapter 163, and now it sits in front of the board as a petition under Chapter 163. Your consideration here will be exactly the same as if they were petitioning under 227, 103E 227, or the partial abandonment. And it really has to do with what purpose does this serve? Have they adequately addressed the function of the drainage system? And will anyone on the drainage system or the function of the drainage system be prejudiced by the action? So today what we're asking is to receive the petition, appoint your engineer to review, and then come back with a report, at which time then we could set a hearing on the petition.
Okay, and that's the resolution on page 74.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I was trying to figure out where this location was, because we've had a lot of action along the street, 125, 125th Street. So, are we getting close to the? Tell me where this is at.
Yeah, so this lateral actually is at the tippy top of our boundary on Blaine. It stops at the boundary, so Main Street actually serves as the district's boundary. On the south side is the Peoples lateral as well as the Divine lateral for ACD 5362 branch 2. And so north of it is Coon Creek. So
North of it
is Coon Creek Watershed District. So this is if you go up from the office on Lexington Avenue and you take a left on Main Street, you can't really see the ditch there, but it's there.
All right.
So yeah, the county is proposing a pond in line with the existing lateral at this time. So, and that's to address their proposed street improvements. They're going to be taking it from a 2-lane undivided highway into double lanes divided. So they'll be increasing some square footage there.
On 125th Street?
Yes. It is a main thoroughway through Blaine and Noka and Lino. So
yeah,
lots of traffic. We're still waiting to see a few more materials from the city, obviously for our engineer's report, and then they'll also be required to apply for a permit application.
Madam President. So we're going to put a pond in the middle of the ditch, or are we going to put the ditch to the, thank you. Yeah. We're going to put, or is this going to be a ditch to the side of the pond? I mean,
So this, I believe, is considered inline. It is the headwaters of it, so essentially the channel would just end, or it would the flow would start from the stormwater pond.
so this will be a pool at the head of the ditch then?
Yes. Yep.
All right, so we won't lose any.
Which means I don't have to walk all the way up to Main Street if I come from the south.
So, but we're not going to find ourselves in a problem later on where the profile of the ditch is, somebody decides to clean the pond, they tell you, oh, you went too deep, your ditch isn't that deep. We're not going to have that headache, eh?
No, I don't believe so. Attorney Kolb can clarify, though.
Madam President?
Go ahead.
Manager Waller, answer your question. So the end of the ditch right now ends right at the roadway, and there's really no drainage further north from there to get to the ditch there. So really, there is almost no property that is affected by the ponding and all, even if it were to be blocked off, other than the road right of way.
I understand that point, but what I'm getting at is that I've been around these ditches long enough to have somebody come and tell me you can't clean that because you don't know how deep it is. And I don't want to, that's why I've always been a supporter for many years of having the ponds off to the side of the ditch so that there isn't any confusion with well-meaning people that may not have the same agenda of providing stormwater conveyance. So Attorney Kolb, straighten me up, please.
That's a tough task, Manager. Manager, all our members of the board, the short answer to your question is no. This is an impoundment at the very headwaters of the ditch. Its intent is to provide rate, volume, and treatment control to the drainage waters before they actually enter, well, now that before they enter the ditch proper. So our maintenance activity in the future, based on this modification, will end at the outlet of the pond, and then everything upstream of the pond, including the conveyance along the road network to the pond and the maintenance of the pond itself, will be the obligation of the county as the road authority if you approve this modification. And that will all be reviewed by and reported on by your engineer if you adopt the resolution found on page 74 of your packet.
Any further questions? Okay, let's go ahead and I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move Resolution 2021-15, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers as Public Drainage Authority for Noka County Ditch 53-62, accepting the petition and appointing an engineer.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Manager Waller?
Yes.
Manager Wynan?
Yes.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
Manager Wageman?
Yes.
And Manager Priner, yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Ashley.
All right. Last item I have before you, Madam President, Board of Managers, the Anoka County Ditch 5362 Main Trunk Repair and Preliminary Charge Memo. We previously saw the presentation of the engineer's report and the charge allocation memo at the June 7th board workshop. Since then, no changes have been made to either of the reports. As you know, we've been working closely with the city to incorporate any comments and concerns. We've already shifted the timeline to accommodate the city's requests as well as after a walkthrough, amending the reports to incorporate some of their concerns with spoil placement. Right now, staff are tentatively recommending, obviously, you accept the resolution 2021-16 and then set a public hearing for August 25th in the evening. This is a little bit different timeline than we would typically see in some of our public hearing processes. I will, again, hand off to Attorney Kolb to explain a little bit more on why we are recommending a 30-day noticing period.
Mr. Cole?
Madam President, members of the board, in historic practice of the board, when we've been dealing with the systems for which you have created water management districts and for which you will be imposing water management district charges, we have typically put out the engineering report and the charge allocation for a 30-day review in order to solicit comments in advance of the public hearing. So we're recommending that again today. Additionally, we're recommending the extended period for review because of the extensive coordination that we've had with the city in this case and their ongoing concerns. We want to give the city every opportunity to voice their concerns and so that the board is not left at the public hearing with a comment, we didn't have adequate time to talk to you. So that's the purpose for that recommendation as to this and for the extended schedule prior to the public hearing.
With that, we'll entertain a motion, and please read the whole order.
Okay, Madam President.
President.
Go ahead.
Lots of feedback. I'll just speak loudly here and somebody's mic will pick it up. As Ashley noted, in the order, and whoever makes the motion will run into it, it doesn't designate the time because of this brief discussion. So again, on page 79, under the order, item C, it was August 25th, 2021, and that was an evening meeting,
Yep.
right, which we typically hold at
6:30.
6:30.
The location I would suggest would be either here or we can coordinate, staff can coordinate another location.
Okay, well, at whatever location.
We'll confirm this location and.
Oftentimes in the past, have we not held these particular meetings in the communities of which they were?
Yeah.
And so that would be appropriate in my view.
So,
If
yep,
it's
I can
available.
address that, Manager Waller. So part of the reason that we had suggested initially Shoreview was that we're not to the point that we're working within a single community. The Anoka County Ditch 5362 drainage area covers multiple municipalities. And so to keep a more central location for multiple communities to attend, we had initially recommended that Shoreview, which is your regular meeting place, be a consistent location. There was also some uncertainty with COVID restrictions and availability. So as we move into more of the construction plans and into the smaller localized community where the project is almost wholly taking place in the city of Circle Pines, we would look to potentially meet in a closer proximity to those landowners.
Okay. Go ahead, Nick.
We have reached out to Circle Pines, or will be. I've communicated with Administrator Antonin that we'd like to take him up on that offer, and based on all the logistical items, we hope to do that. For the construction,
Portion of
correct,
Okay.
yes, site-specific.
Okay, continue on.
Okay, are you ready?
We're ready.
Madam President, I move to approve Resolution 2021-16, accepting the engineer's repair report and charge allocation recommendation and directing further repair proceedings with the following orders. A, the Board of Managers accepts the engineer's technical memoranda for both the repair of the main trunk of ACD 5362 and the allocation of charges for the cost of the repair. B, the recommended scope of repair and charge allocation are subject to modification and final board approval after public hearing. C, the Board of Managers directs its administrator to notice acceptance of the technical memoranda and to open a 30-day period for review and comment to set and notice a final hearing on both the repair and charge allocation, at which the board shall take public comment and consider an order directing construction of the repair and adoption of the charge allocation to be held on August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 in whichever location to be determined. And D, notice of the final hearing shall be provided as required by statute and district policy.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the Manager Waller.
Yes.
Manager Wynant.
Yes.
Manager Bradley.
Yes.
Manager Wagaman.
Yes?
Manager Priner. Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, and now everybody got the substitute paper that was handed out today for page 82. Is that correct, Lauren?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello, President Priner, Board of Managers. The second item for your consideration that I have for you today is a proposed amendment for the service agreement between Noka Conservation District and the Rice Creek Watershed District for the 2021 Water Quality Grant Program and Mini Grant Program. Staff and Anoka Conservation District are proposing to increase the service agreement by $10,000 to cover additional work needed to complete a targeted partnership project with the City of Fridley. Staff is working with Anoka Conservation District and the City of Fridley on a large curb cut rain garden project in conjunction with the city's 2021 street reconstruction project, which may involve 8 landowners and is in a priority area that does not currently have a significant amount of stormwater treatment. And Smith Partners provided guidance to staff that the proposed amendment to the agreement on page 83 in your packets can be simpler. And so staff have provided a handout today at the meeting to revise that proposed amendment on page 83, to replace that proposed amendment on page 83.
I'd like it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to authorize the district administrator to sign the proposed 2021 service agreement amendment with the Anoka County Conservation District in the amount not to exceed $23,000 respectively to provide technical assistance for the Rice Creek Watershed District's programs with any further non-material charges and on advice of council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll also note that the sheet supplied today includes that, this one.
First
Yeah.
Amendment.
Yeah,
Replace
so,
it. Yep.
so this replaces that.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
So, Madam President,
Mm-hmm.
this is an increase in here for a project in Privy, which is definitely needed. But I point out to you that it probably a few years ago, we bumped up Ramsey County's numbers, and we're bumping up Anoka's today. So I'll have to check into Hennepin and Washington.
See if we can get them to bump up theirs.
And there's two, yeah. And by listening to Hall's Marsh today and the other issues about Lost Lake, they're probably funding well spent for the engineering assistance.
Okay, thank you. We have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Check register.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated July 14th, 2021 in the amount of $403,448.62 prepared by Redpath and Company.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion items. District engineer, update or timeline. Any questions for the engineer?
Madam President, the only thing I'll note is that we did complete our district-wide model annual update here just recently. So we incorporated a bunch of additional information, including our JD3 repair project and the effect of the clean out of the ditch there. That's now incorporated in the model. So that's all uploaded and be available for district and engineering staff for review and permits.
Okay. Do we notify the cities that that update is on the site? They use it? Yeah. Go ahead.
President Priner, Board of Managers, I'll just note that we often highlight that as part of our city-county partner meeting. I believe it's becoming rather commonplace that they know the district has a model and we routinely update it. Part of that update includes querying the cities to see what information they may have to update it. And, you know,
So
this
they should
point,
be aware.
right, this update isn't the end. It's totally always evolving, so thank you for the question.
All right. Anything else? Administrators updates. Manager Waller.
I'm not an administrator, Madam President.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got the wrong one. Well, you might want to be. Go ahead, Nick.
No update.
Pays well enough.
Go ahead.
No update.
No
President
update.
Priner.
Okay, then we're going to go to managers. Manager Waller.
I attended the Washington County Consortium meeting. They had two presentations. One was from the Capital Regions Watershed District, and the other was from the Mississippi Water Management Organization. Both the topics were similar. They were discussing their experiences with outreach programs, considering that they happen to be inner city districts, very inner city. The second, I have to turn my notes here. Where did I put it? I've had 3 letters from Mr. Dworsky over on Lost Lake, considering, I think I'll share these with Koshin because he's kind of in charge of that. Although actually Washington County Conservation District, I understand, is doing the monitoring at the moment. So that's a good deal. We can, and he's concerned, his last letter was how to find some funding here. He's not the only individual. There are others I've experienced in the last few years that are on Lost Lake North and Lost Lake South, and they're concerned that the fishing pier on Lost Lake South doesn't have the DNR support because of the water quality issue. And again, this is something that goes not just in those two lakes, but also we've had some new road reconstruction up there and changes like that. So, and then finally, I mentioned today that I'm beginning, after thinking about today's discussion in our public hearing, that in the request for a holistic project approach to Halls Marsh and Privy Lake, and Kyle even mentioned a couple other areas in there, that maybe that's something we should consider as a larger plan amendment eventually. I don't know how to tackle that problem, but I just throw that out here as a suggestion in a moment because it involves 3 different cities, and it's been a long time frustration for the district and for the counties and everybody involved in it because it was poorly engineered. It seems to be something that was done at the last minute. That project in 1980 was primarily over in Roseville and New Brighton, Ramsey County Ditch number 2 in those areas, and this was kind of it seems to be tossed on at the last minute. So, but anyway, that's something to consider it throughout. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, feels like it. I have 3 things.
Okay.
So to the point about what we just talked about at Privy Lake, if that indeed was a wetland and not a lake, that's the reason that we have, this major problem. And I know we've talked about this in our long-range planning, and we'll see it continue. So always curious about what's going on in the district. I did stop at the development, this Oakwood Ponds, and a friend of mine and I checked out the houses. Well, once again, we are in huge development, or many, many developments. There are water features that are the retention ponds. Some are being used to irrigate. Some are there as a water feature. And I don't think these are as big, they're obviously not as big as Privy Lake, but they repeat themselves over and over and over again. So maintenance, what happens when they fill up? What happens when they start to stink? People are spending close to $1 million for a house, a little house on a little lot with this water feature. So just in case you're interested in what that looks like, I have this folder, and the houses are really nice, but and likewise, you know that I grew up in Shakopee on O'Dowd's Lake, which is a real lake. Though we are jumping off the pontoon right now, and I am hitting bottom for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So we're in a drought. We have, there are all these things that you can't engineer yourself around. So, for what it's worth, it's like there's only so much the Watershed District can do.
Well,
You can only engineer.
I'm almost wondering if they have a homeowner association that's paying for that, like we are in ours.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine they're collecting and it'll be cleaned out
So
when it's
just
time.
where
Well,
is this place?
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
But is it in the records anymore? Are there easements? All of those things that you would assume we've learned our lessons from past years.
Where is this?
This is just north of that, Solinsky's. So Solinsky's is right down here.
I got it now.
Yeah,
It's right,
yeah.
just north.
And these $1 million homes are looking across
$1
the,
million? Wow.
well, once you get, you're,
Way beyond my pay grade.
yeah, yes. Okay, so that's one thing.
Even if I was an administrator.
Yes. On Monday, I am going to attend the first Clean Water Council live and in person, and we're actually having a field visit at the St. Paul campus on Krenza. The grain that's being developed, that's a perennial grain, and a lot of research on that. To the point with this is that, like you attending meetings, John, it's always good to hear what's going on in the rest of the world. So as I get that information, and I certainly can bring it to you, and we can go from there. And then the third thing is, now I'm a little confused about meetings. So we're here, are we also online? Can people still log in on Teams to hear the meeting from here? No, but they can on workshops. I could, but it's not, so.
No. YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
This meeting.
Okay, so
President-
have we made any allowance for public to witness the meeting here live in real time?
President Preiner, the meeting here is not live online. The meeting is recorded, and
Okay.
then it's posted to cable channels, and it's also on YouTube and available to the public through that venue.
Okay, so what's happened is, now that we are, before when we were meeting at the office and or when we were meeting online, the public was able to have the public, what is this on our agenda?
President Preiner, Manager Wynett, I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought. So President Preiner declared that it wasn't prudent for the district to meet in a public forum, and so that we would meet virtually, and then through our best efforts, bring the public into that and any individual who wanted to participate. Now that has been rescinded, and we go back to plain old public meeting law.
Okay.
In which all of you need to be present.
Yep.
Or otherwise, like you did at the workshop, you
Right.
could be an observer. And your
Okay.
district engineer and such, or staff, could call in, but that's less than ideal, I would say.
Okay,
Is
so
that-
my concern here, though, is during the open mic and public comment period for our meetings, now, the only way people can participate in the open mic is to actually be here in person. Okay, just clarifying.
So
And-
may I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you suggesting that that process where the public was available before might be extended to our current process?
Well, I
Or
think,
initiated again or such?
I guess I'm just trying to figure out
I'm-
how we continue to have access for folks. So, I mean, even for staff at this meeting, it's a whole morning here where they kind of came and went. So I guess I wanted to be clear in my own head how this actually worked and how we continue to open the possibility for the public to be engaged.
I think there were some experiences we've had in the last year with technology that are worth pursuing to expand our presence to others. I don't know how we do that yet, but I could see the value of the live computer availability for people to have a public comment or such. Lady today was here because her neighbor wasn't able to come, but maybe her neighbor could have participated. But I don't know how to do that. But with our experience, I think there's some things that have come out that have been pretty good.
We'll have to see what coordinates with the
Yeah.
system that we have now, so.
Maybe
Well, and the other
Yeah.
only point of that is when I was in my little office, I was able to look at my map and go, Lost Lake, where are they? So, no, not at all. Not at all, but I'm gonna bring my map from now on because I need a map. So thank you, that's all.
Only partially.
Bradley?
Piggybacking on the comments that the two of you made about holistic approaches. Now, Lauren's here, her is responsible for many of the programs that may be of most value to Privy Lake, if there are any. The truth is Privy Lake was a stormwater pond. It is a stormwater pond. How on earth they got us to build I don't even know, did we build that thing? I thought someone else built it.
Manager Bradley, Madam President, this thing was built before the district existed, okay?
Right.
I have some connections in the neighborhood in Birchwood for a very long time. And my godfather's still there, and he said to me one day when I wanted to park my truck in his yard to go to a Birchwood meeting, he says, "How the hell did that happen before you go anywhere else, And Privy Lake was, kind of a, what, to me. So I think this was a developer that did that, just as what Manager Wynant was showing us what developers are doing. This is an early point of view, and after that it became a problem. And that's why you hear all of them talk about a holistic approach to retrofitting this to do it. But yeah, it's at one time, I understand, according to my godfather, he said that went down the street on the Ramsey County side of the East County line right into the lake. And so I don't know what's happened since or how that's,
So we've got hundreds of these stormwater ponds.
Yes, we do.
Yep. Hundreds of them. We're probably gonna get hundreds more before we're done. And it is a major issue. I don't know, it's kind of like, I think it's gonna be like AIS. It may not be our issue, but maybe we need to have an understanding of the issue and
Certainly gonna hear it.
develop resources or access to resources, because this is not the first and certainly not the last time we're gonna hear about
Well,
this.
we're the ones requiring them to put in stormwater ponds.
I know.
Right,
So we better have an answer.
Yeah, and that's really true. We make a mandate and then we don't fund the maintenance of it. So as an old Washington County Commissioner years ago used to rail down at the meetings 25 years ago about the state making mandates that were unfunded mandates, and he'd pound the table about it. So, but that's another issue that has to be looked at, and sometimes you hear no offense now with the staff, not to start, I say to them, MS4 is only with the ditches, and they say, no, it's with the stormwater ponds, the rate and volume control that contribute to the ditches.
Yeah. So that $1 million home may not be worth $1 million 20 years from now.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing news. Oh, Nick has something.
President Preiner, just as follow-up to the discussion on the developer's efforts, current permits, so anything that's created for our rule, the obligation for the maintenance of a stormwater BMP is recorded or designated to the landowner or the city. So we are dividing these things out. That doesn't mean they cannot dig a hole in the ground, call it a lake, and we've had that on a number, and we're making every effort to be clear in our engineer's report that that is in fact what it is. So first, defining who's responsible, if you will, or its intended purpose. And secondarily, it isn't lost on me, the idea of what resources do we make available. People buying today will certainly want to preserve whatever aesthetic quality or use those features have. So we can certainly create some of that, and certainly believe that's underway with our outreach and communication program. One other thing I should note, the summer tour, which is a virtual tour online. I believe you all probably likely received communication in regards to that, and that is on the 22nd, next Thursday.
And I think the Metro mod is on Tuesday.
Correct.
Is that a virtual meeting, the Metro Mod, or is that in live?
Yes, I think they're both virtual.
It's still virtual, okay.
somebody send us some information on how to get on that?
They're supposed to send it out to you.
And it's virtual.
I think, I know I got some from
Uh,
Emily.
President Brenner, yeah. Emily
Yeah.
at MOD did send out an email. I believe you're all on that email exchange, noting Manager Waller, which we print and provide it to him. If you're having trouble signing up or didn't receive it, we can certainly forward it out again to you or communicate with staff. This is Thursday, the 22nd.
And it's virtual.
It's virtual. It's a
Virtual.
I saw that, I
One-
went through and I assumed I would get further information. I didn't really pay much attention.
Yeah, 1 PM, and then at
1
the
p.m.
bottom of that email.
Okay.
There, it says register now. It simply asks for your name, your email address, and then what organization you're
All right,
with.
I'll take care of it, thank you.
Typical Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Look at that.
Oh,